What's up, guys? Welcome back to the 6th episode of the Mr. CPA podcast. I am your host, Bryan Carreto, CPA, and on this podcast, we discuss business, self-improvement, and all things accounting related. All right, guys, we got a great podcast lined up for you guys today. A little different, and I'm actually going to address a comment that we just received on the most recent video I uploaded about deep work, and that is Andres requested, can I make an in-depth video on my career and how I started versus what I do now? So I'm going to give you guys my whole, essentially, my whole accounting story going on 7 years now. And I'll be honest with you guys, a total side note, but I'm very much on a personal level enjoying this podcast. And from the comments that I've got on Instagram and YouTube and you know, TikTok and what have you, some of the messages I've received are just honestly overwhelming, and this podcast helps me keep myself accountable to myself, and I can see myself continuing to grow and just being overall just fulfilled with my life, just kind of building something that, you know, is aside from, you know, what I do on the day-to-day basis with my professional career. I'm actually gonna, so that's a total side note, but I'm gonna go into my 7-year process, going on 7 years and a few months now since I've been a quote-unquote professional, and I'm going to take you guys from literally beginning to kind of where I'm at now. So I'll start in high school. So to give you guys some background, you know, I wasn't always like some, you know, academic CPA guy. In high school, I majored in 2 things, girls and soccer. Those are the 2 things I worked on, and yeah, I did not focus on school at all. Academically, I don't think I ever did well at anything. I think I graduated with a 2.3 GPA just because I literally needed just enough to play soccer. And in my head, I was going to be the next Cristiano Ronaldo, and obviously that didn't happen. But you know, sometimes the things that don't happen are the best thing that never happened to you. And I'm glad I didn't continue to pursue that or chase that, because, you know, although I consider myself a pretty good soccer player, once you get to that elite level, these guys are on a whole other level. So with that, you know, I graduated high school, and I was always kind of like this outgoing dude that was kind of like the class clown. I wasn't like super popular, but I wasn't like, you know, I was like, you know, I knew a lot of people and stuff because I played soccer all 4 years. And yeah, so I was like, you know, whatever, captain of the soccer team and all that good stuff. And you know, played club soccer. And then once high school was over, I graduated, and you know, my dad, being the guy that he is, a very, like, you know, strong, masculine dude, was like, all right, man, what are you gonna do now? Like, you soccer is obviously, like, you're not doing that anymore. So are you going to either go to school or you're gonna pay rent? He literally gave me 2 options. And I, for one, was not going to pay rent, so I did not want to do that, so that wasn't an option. So I was like, hey, I guess I'll go to school. You know, everyone's going to college. I guess I'll just go to college. And that actually ended up being one of the best things that happened to me, because at that age, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, honestly. I knew I kind of liked business, kind of, not really. Yeah, like I said, I didn't really know what I was going to do. I played soccer my whole life. That's all I did. So once I enrolled into Chaffee Community College in Rancho Cucamonga, California. I am born and raised in SoCal, still live in LA now. I ended up going to community college, and you know, I had a girlfriend at the time, and very, very great part of my life, and something that I really cherish and appreciate. You know, but no, that's another story. So she told me, she said, you know what, Bryan, you're not an idiot. You're just like, you need to focus on now school. Like, school is now your new soccer. Like, you're not a soccer player anymore. It's not what you do. But one thing about me, I have a very addictive personality, and that can be a good thing and that can be a really bad thing. That's why I've always stayed away from, you know, heavy alcohol or vices or gambling or drugs or any of that stuff. Like, I've never really got involved in any of that, because I know the type of person that I am. Like, once I do something, I do it. So yeah, so that's kind of what became my new thing. Was school and college was now my new obsession, my new way of getting better every single day. And that's just the type of person that I was. And I learned that really, I guess, early on. And that's one fortunate thing that I'm very happy about that I did, that I knew who I was. I knew what I was good at. And that's one thing that you need to figure out early on, is that what are you good at? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And I say that's a strength for me, but also a big weakness, because again, I have an addictive personality. Anything I start doing, I do it. So I start school, and then again, all that kept running through my head was, all right, she told me this is my new soccer, school's my new soccer, so that's what I'm gonna do. So that's what I did. And I remember my first semester, I wasn't even declared a major yet. I think I was just taking like general education. And, I'll never forget this. This is one thing that that stays with me every day. So when as I didn't really plan to go to college, I just kind of enrolled randomly and I took like this placement test. And I ended up placing like in the most remedial math ever. Like it was bad. Like it was so bad. So I remember I ended up at my first class in college. Oh man, this was what I graduated high school in 2009. Yeah, like this was fall 2009, 2010. And oh man, I end up taking this class and the professor gets on the board and he starts writing oh, this is terrible. He wrote 2 + 5, and I thought like, okay, cool. Like I remember from high school, kind of like I didn't really take a lot of upper level math in high school because I didn't really care about academics. But I do remember 2 + 5, like I thought that was going to lead it to some equation, like something harder. And he's like, does anyone have the answer to this? And I'm just like, I'm kind of looking around, I'm like, what the, dude, it's. I'm sorry. He said 2 + 3. It was 2 + 3, and I'll never forget this. It's like 2 + 3, and I was like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, yeah, what? Yeah. I was like, yeah, sir, professor. Yeah, it's 2 + 3. It's 5, right? Yeah, like I'm like second guessing myself, and he's like, yes. And then I literally after that I look at my schedule, and I'm like. Wait a minute, am I in this math? And I raise my hand, I'm like, sir, I think I'm in the wrong classroom. He's like, what math are you in? I was like, math, what have you, whatever. And he's like, yeah, you're in the right math class. I'm like, okay. So I go home that day and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, am I that dumb? Or like, what's wrong with me? What happened? Like, I was not this like soccer kid anymore. Like now I'm just some guy at some community college taking a class that like, I thought I was like, I don't want to say too good for, but I thought at least I knew a little more than that. So it really gave me a reality check as to where I was at in my life. And after that day, things just really changed for me. After that first day of my first day in community college, I just said, you know what? This is my new soccer. This is what I'm going to get good at. This is what I'm going to dedicate my life to. And that's what I did. And I literally hit the books like there was no tomorrow. And end of my first semester, I ended up getting straight A's. It was crazy. And I remember I put the grades on, like, the kids would, in high school or elementary school, you'd put your grades on the refrigerator. Well, that's what I did, and I was in college. My parents were like, what the heck? Like, you got straight A's? I was like, yeah, dude, I got straight A's. Like, I couldn't believe it. This is the first time in my life. I was 18, literally K through 12th grade, never did well, and now all of a sudden it's my first semester in college, and I'm killing it, right? And I'm continuing to take this work ethic and this mindset of, okay, I can do this. Like, as long as I put in the work and I study, I can do whatever I set my mind to. Literally, that's what I told myself. I was taking, like, I would get approvals from the dean on, like, taking more classes. And I was taking, I think, like, one semester I took, like, 22 units, 24 units, 22. It was crazy. It was, like, full-time plus 2 classes. And I was working at Chipotle at the time. I worked at Chipotle for 5 years rolling burritos. So that's literally what I did before I issued $1 million financials when I was auditing. So that was my first semester in college. And I ended up declaring myself, I think, as an econ major. So I was like, okay, well, based on being an econ major, you had to take accounting as like a general prerequisite, general ed. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I can do that. Like, it's just another class I need to take in my pursuit or in my, end goal of getting my economics degree. So I did that, and I take my first accounting class, and again, I'm already in the mindset of I can do this, like school's my new thing, like this is all I do, this is what I dedicate my life to. So I'm studying like crazy, but like for the first time in my entire, I guess, academic career, I actually enjoyed it. Like it was fun. Like I was having a lot of fun with it. So we end up taking our first accounting test, and oh man, Dr. Dixon, she's just awesome. So I still talk to my accounting professor till the day, because that day changed my life. So she's passing out, all the exams, and she finally passes mine out, and she's passing out the C's, and then she's passing out the B's, and then I still don't have an exam. I'm like, dude, what the heck? Like, oh my God, I do that bad? Like, I knew this was a fluke. I freaking failed, and no, yeah. So she's passing out the A's, and then finally, she's like, I want to like single out this person, in the class. I'm like, what the? Okay, like some guy's gonna get singled out. I still don't have, mind you, I still don't have an exam, and everyone got an exam already. And oh man, and then she's like, Bryan Carreto, can you stand up? I'm like, what? Like me? Like wait, like is there another Bryan in here? Like what happened? And she's like, yeah, so everyone gives me a round of applause, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh my God, that was literally the most happiest moment in my life to date, because, I had never done well in school, and like now someone is singling me out with all these smart people because, I did well on this exam. So I get up and she gives me my exam, and I'm like, literally, I feel like I'm gonna cry, man, because how happy I am. And finally, after class, she tells me, she's like, hey, see me after class. So I'm like, okay, cool. So after class, I go up to her. I'm like, what's up? Like, what's going on? Thank you for my exam. Thank you for, giving me the recognition. She's like, have you ever thought about doing like accounting, like for a living, like as a job? And I'm like, bruh, no, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I'm just taking this class because the dude in the front office, like my advisor or whatever, career coach, told me to take this class. Like, yeah, no, thank you. And I'm driving home that day. I'm on the 210 freeway going westbound. I'll never forget this, man. I swear, I replay it every day in my head. And I was like, I told myself, I looked up and I'm like, you know what? I really wasn't much of a believer or whatever back then, but I was like, you know what, God, if this is a sign from you, I'm taking it, because no one has ever told me I'm ever good at anything academically. I get home and I even talk to my parents about it. I'm like, hey, I think I want to do this thing like accounting. Like I never took it. Like my high school didn't even offer it. So this first time I ever heard about accounting was when I took the class. Like I didn't even know what a CPA is or was or did or anything. I didn't know anything. So I ended up taking accounting. I changed my major the next day. Again, I have this mindset of I'm going to do well. So I end up transferring from my community college in 2 years. And I ended up going to Cal Poly. I transferred there. And again, I had the same mindset of I'm going to do well and nothing's going to stop me. And I ended up getting, thankfully, thank God, I ended up making friends with people that were involved in like the accounting societies, Beta Alpha Psi, my local accounting club on campus. I end up becoming friends with them. They get me involved in, these accounting societies and clubs, which I highly recommend you do. And I started building these interpersonal skills, like the ones I have, even giving you the story and sharing myself on camera. I started building that a long time ago. This was years ago. This was when I was in college. I would tell them, hey, let me make the announcements. Let me get involved. I will do whatever. I want to start learning how to present myself with people and professionals and start learning how to do this, because me coming from a, blue collar background, I never really had anyone be in corporate, or I never had anyone to tell me how to maneuver myself or how to act like a professional or anything really. I kind of just had to learn it all. And I ended up, graduating with super high grades out of there. But through that process of, being involved and being part of Beta Alpha Psi, I ended up meeting RSM, which was the firm that I worked at for 7 years. And it's funny because if it wasn't for me getting involved, I wouldn't have got my firm offer the way it happened. So I was the director of corporate relations. A side story, but as the director of corporate relations, when the professionals would come out to speak to us at school, when we were in college, the director of corporate relations would meet them at in the parking lot and then walk them over to the auditorium. Well, the senior manager that came that day, I ended up walking him to the room and I kind of chatted with him a little bit. We were just talking sports, whatever. And it's funny because he's actually, by the time I ended up interviewing with RSM and all the different firms, I had actually talked to him beforehand, so he knew who I was. And that interview was the smoothest interview I've ever had. And, I definitely attribute it to being involved and a leader on, part of the organization. And interview ended up going really well. I ended up getting my firm offer November 2013 from RSM, and I got firm offers from, the other big four firms. But, I ended up choosing RSM because, again, at that time, I didn't really even know the difference between RSM or BDO or Deloitte or, PwC, anyone. I just knew I wanted a job because, again, me being first generation in college, like I didn't really know anything. I didn't know what the difference was with firms or anything like that. So for me, just getting a firm offer, like that was everything to me at the time. Literally, I remember getting my offer in November 2013, almost a year or kind of 6-7 months before I graduated college in November 2014. And I'm just like, man, like I can't believe it, like I made it. And back then, my starting salary was, I think, like $57,000. And I'll be honest with you guys, like now to me, that, no, I don't mean this in a bad way, but like now to me, that's obviously, I make a lot more than that now, but back then, 7 years ago, oh my God, that was like $1 million to me. I literally graduated from college with nothing. Like when I say nothing, like you don't understand, like I had zero. Thankfully, I didn't have debt, but I also graduated with nothing. I was building myself. Like everything you guys see that, these videos and on Instagram or whatever, like everything I have, I built from nothing, zero. Like literally, I'm telling you guys, no one gave me anything. And, that I'm very proud of that because I was able to build a skill for myself and build a life for myself where I provide for myself and everything I take ownership of. So anyways, that's more self-improvement, but where was I? Okay, so I ended up graduating college June 14th, 2014. And about 6 months from there, I took, my CPA exams. That's a whole nother story. But I ended up taking my CPA exams. I passed 2. I started working at RSM November 10th, 2014. So I was an associate at the time. I jumped on board, and my first year was absolutely terrible at RSM. And this is not against the firm. This is me. Like it just, the bad thing about, I guess, public accounting sometimes, a lot of it is luck. Like who you get put to work with, what jobs you get put on, especially that first, like your first 2-3 clients that you work on, it's all luck. And it's unfortunate sometimes because you get really good people that get placed with bad managers or bad senior managers, and they don't end up having a good experience. They don't learn, so they don't develop themselves, and they end up leaving really quick. So I had not a really bad first year, but I didn't do as good as I hoped. Like I was, back then they rated us, 1 to 5, and they don't do that anymore. But, we were rated 1 to 5, and I was rated a 3, which just means I was average. I was just like, I was a guy that showed up to work. No one really said like, hey, this guy's the next audit god, or this guy's awesome. He's just like, shows up, does the work, and yeah, he's nothing special. So I didn't feel like I don't want to say I didn't belong, but I didn't feel like I was really getting a great experience. And again, this is not against the firm. It just, personally, like that's how I felt. So I ended up interviewing at Ernst & Young to go at EY. I was going to leave after my first year to hop out and go start there as like, I guess, like a level 2 associate. So it's so crazy how this all happens. The week before, so once I interviewed, I got I got a firm offer. Once I interviewed, before I left, the week before, I was going to submit my resignation to then, leave. My mentor, till the day, she asked me to run some copies for her. And we're in the office back then, and I'm running copies, and I run these copies for her, right? And I do these copies literally like they're the last copies I'm ever gonna run ever in my life. I do them they're so pristine. So I make these copies for her, I turn them in, and she looks at them, she's like, oh, this is pretty good. I'm like, oh yeah, of course, dude. Literally, this is my life's work. Like, that's all I'm doing. And then she's like, hey, are you busy? I'm like, absolutely not. Like, I'm not doing anything. I'm just studying for the exam. I only had one more CPA exam to take at this time. It was already summer 2015, by June, July-ish. And after my first busy season. And then she's like, hey, if you're not busy, I have a client we're working on right now. You should come out and join. I'm like, okay, yeah, cool, let's do it. So I ended up going out to the client, and it was a manufacturing client, which is still the thing I love to do and I enjoy. And, I'm out there for a week, and then she's like, hey, you did pretty good this week. And I'm like, thanks. Like, I'm trying, like, I'm really enjoying it. And not only that, she was a great teacher and a great mentor to me during that week. And she's like, you should come out next week. And then I was like, okay, yeah, like, dude, I was so happy. Like, I was finally, like, this was the best week of my career. Mind you, I was going to quit. So I ended up, believe it or not, just because of this week, I ended up resigning, or not resigning, but I ended up declining the offer I had kind of already accepted. And I know that's like a big no-no, but I said I couldn't go anymore because, circumstances had changed. So I wasn't going to end up going to EY anymore just based on that week that I had, because I hadn't had a week like that my whole career thus far. And literally after that week, I don't think I was ever unassigned in my whole career, literally after that. And I kind of just like stuck with her throughout the next 2-3 years. And it was funny because after that year I did associate level 2, and then after that I made senior, and then my career just like, it literally just started taking off. Like I started being trained by her. She would put me on every one of her clients, and she taught me the fundamentals of accounting that I try to teach you guys on this podcast and on this channel. She taught me how to be a great auditor. She taught me how to think. And mind you, this being said, sometimes she was extremely hard on me, and thankfully she also had a great mentor of hers, which was the partner that I ended up working for pretty much the entirety of my career in public accounting. And a big thing about public accounting, like I said, is luck. And you want to make sure that you align yourself with people that you want to emulate, that you see, that you want to be like, man, in a few years I want to be like that manager, I want to be like that partner, the way they think, the way they talk to clients, the way they operate. You want to be like that, and I wanted to be like them, and I had a goal for myself. And once that like year 2, year 3 happened, I'm like, you know what? I want to be a partner. Like that's what I want to do. And that was my new North Star that I always tell you guys about, that you have to have, because when you have that goal that's very far in the distant, when things get hard on a day-to-day basis, because they will and they are, you are able to get up every day after day after day and put up with it and get through the stuff that you have to get through because of the goal you have in mind. And that was literally it. So I was a senior for only a year and a half. So I did 2 years as an associate. I was a senior for only a year and a half. I got promoted to supervisor, and then that's when once I got promoted to supervisor, I was about 3.5-4 years in, and I felt like accounting wise I was solid. I got involved in the more technical parts of accounting, like purchase accounting, business combinations, debt modifications. I started doing all that really early in my career, which I recommend you guys do also, because those skills that you learn, you take them everywhere you go. So start getting involved with the technical stuff really early on in your career. So I did that. So by my 4th year, I was actually, they were doing a rotation at my firm in transaction advisory, which is due diligence. Honestly, this was probably the most fun time I had in my career when it came to work, because I personally think the transaction advisory side is a little more sexy and a lot more fun than just audit per se, which I highly recommend. If this is something that you're interested in or want to do, let me know. I can make another video on, or another podcast on kind of my whole experience in that. So I did transaction advisory for 4 or 5 months. I come back to audit. When I come back, I'm only 4 years in, and it was around mid-years promotions, and I got promoted to audit manager. And when I made audit manager, I think it was 2019 or 2019 now. And by the time I made audit manager, man, I was having a blast. Like I loved it, because what was cool about being an audit manager is that I had a bunch of, I had different teams. I had like 3 or 4 teams at once. I was now talking to clients all the time at like the C-suite level. I had full access to controllers, CFOs, partners, man, like everyone I was just talking to. I was managing and teaching everyone literally the basic fundamentals of accounting and how to audit, which was, it's like I love that stuff. And not only that, I felt like personally and professionally, once I hit manager, my career just like exponentially grew. And I was just having a blast. Like I'd wake up in the morning. I was actually still living at home at the time in 2019. I would like wake up in the morning, I'd get up, I'd go to the gym, get back home. I'd like start working from like 8 to 10 a.m. And then, once traffic kind of died down, I'd say, hey, I'm gonna go visit this client. So I'd be there at like 10:40, 10:30, 10:45. I'd sit with my team for a little bit. I'd take the client out to lunch. Now it's 1 o'clock, sit with the team for a little bit more, ask them if they have questions, coach them through anything they need help with. Then I call my other team. I'm like, hey guys, I'm on my way. Let me see you guys. I literally go, and this is all around LA. So I'm there, like I'm at the new other client at 2:30. I chop it up with the team. I'm helping them out. I go into the CFO or the controller's office. I'm like, hey, what's up? How are you? Let's meet at 5 before you head out today. Let's just kind of catch up on the audit, see how things are going. Talk to them, come back to the audit room, hang out with them for a little bit, maybe order dinner, and then literally head back home at like 8:30, 9 p.m., get home, 10 o'clock, go to sleep. And I was doing that like clockwork, and I felt like just such a drive and such an energy, and I loved that aspect of it where I was just hustling and getting things done and learning and developing myself. And then 2020 hit, COVID, and it just really took a turn for me, because having such a high in 2019 of, being this new man, this like super young, energetic, manager with charisma and, I guess handsome. I was really excited and stoked, and 2020 hit, and the fun aspect of the job, or the parts that I love the most about, being in person with my team and coaching people and meeting with clients and doing stuff like that, it kind of just got taken away from me. And, it was just really hard. And then on a personal level too, I think I've gone over this a lot in other videos, but I got way too involved in the political aspect of it. I just didn't feel like, I just let it consume me all of 2020. And obviously, I'm sure, as you guys know, everything that went on with the riots, and it was just an unfortunate time, and I really let it get to me. And then during this time, I bought my duplex in March 2020, right before the lockdowns, which there was times where I literally I would be scared, like I couldn't even go to sleep, because I was like, maybe I'm gonna lose my job. I don't know how I'm gonna pay for that duplex. Like, my tenants are gonna pay rent. It was the toughest year of my life. And then professionally, I just felt like, I don't know, it just the whole sexiness of the job and what I really liked the most kind of got stripped away from me. So now, in 2021, I get through the busy season, and I started feeling like, once I got through that busy season in 2020, I started feeling an itch of like, I would always assess at the end of every year and tell myself, hey, am I growing? Am I developing? Is this job helping me get to the long-term vision of myself? And I started getting up, and suddenly, man, I would wake up, and this was probably now beginning at the end of 2021. It was like September, June, July, September of 2021, this past year. And for the first time in my whole professional career, I would wake up and I would not have like a sense of like swag, a sense of just like, let's go do this. I would like wake up and dread it. And I hadn't felt like that my whole life, honestly, with anything. Before, at least when I was a kid, I wasn't going to school very well, but I would love playing soccer, and I always woke up with like a zest for life. And my first, literally, like predominantly my whole career up until that point, I would wake up and like it was a new challenge, and I was ready to learn, grow, and develop myself into that 35-year-old Bryan that not too far from now, that I see like, man, that guy's killing it. And all of a sudden, I just started thinking to myself, like, man, I don't know if this is what I want to do, or maybe I want to try something else. Or I started having all these thoughts of like, okay, what else can I do with the skills that I've acquired over these past 7 years? And and I couldn't shake this feeling. I'm like, maybe I just need to take some time off. And I ended up taking like a week off in September, October-ish. I took a week, and I came back refreshed and ready to go. But even then, I didn't feel like I was myself. I still didn't feel like that zest I had before for the job. I honestly loved it before because of what I was becoming through the job and through the work I was doing. And I don't know, I just felt like it was affecting me on a personal level and just a lot of things. And finally, it got to a point where I'm like, man, I need to make a change. Like, I can't continue like this. And I'm not going to say that I was like, depressed or anything like that, but I was definitely going through something. I don't know what it is until the day I don't even want to remember that feeling of waking up and not wanting to get up and work. And it's just a terrible feeling. It's just not who I am personally. And I finally decide in November that I'm going to make a change, and I'm just going to bet on myself and see where the chips fall. I literally wrote up my letter of resignation without having anything ready to go. No offers yet, nothing. I just knew. I'm like, look, I am young. I have 7 years of experience. I've been a manager for 3 years already. Like, dude, I have more than enough. I'm well equipped now where anyone would be lucky to have me on their team and part of their company. So I submitted my letter of resignation. Everyone was obviously shocked. They didn't know what to say. A bunch of people tried to convince me to but it was just a feeling I couldn't shake off. I could not shake it off anymore. It's something I had to do, and I knew that maybe it would go away or maybe the feeling would subside, but I knew that, 10 years down the road, if I didn't take this chance on myself to do something else and see what else I can do, I knew I would always regret it. And regret is the one thing I do not want to live with. I can live with failure, for sure. I can live with the fact that I didn't do the best. I didn't succeed at something, but at least knowing that I tried is what I wanted to go to bed with every day. And at the end of the day, you have to make decisions for your own career, because only you have to go to sleep with yourself. You have to make your own bed. You have to live with your decisions. So don't let anyone persuade you from doing something that you truly feel in your heart you need to do, regardless of what that is. Because a lot of people were very, disappointed or, sad because I was leaving because of the relationships that I had built over the years. And I don't blame anyone for that. I know that they deeply wanted the best for me, and they thought the best for me was staying on board and hopefully, going to partner in a few years from now. But I wanted something else, and I couldn't shake this feeling. And, once I had started calling all my clients, letting them know, like, hey, I'm leaving the firm, this is what's going on, I'm gone. Oh man, it's crazy how many, the offers just started coming in like there was no tomorrow. And, the client that I had for the longest time, for 7 years, that I had worked on, they ended up giving me an offer. Literally, I called them the Friday of my last day, So after I left the firm, this was now Saturday, I met with the senior management team. They kind of gave me the vision of what they see for the company, myself, and I didn't even really have a title yet. Honestly, I interviewed, and it wasn't really an interview. It was more so of just like, hey man, you're not with RSM anymore. There's nothing that says that we can't offer you a position. You're not with the company anymore. And they gave me an offer that I could simply not refuse, and I was very fortunate. And I literally started with my new company that I'm currently at right now, literally a few days after. I think I left my last firm on a Friday, and I started my new gig on a Wednesday. And it was so cool. And this is one thing that, I always stress on this channel, is that building good relationships and always building that certain level of trust and ownership with your clients and colleagues and people you work with, because I wouldn't have got this opportunity if I wouldn't have done that hard work for 7 years prior to that. I started on this client as an associate, and by the time I left, I was literally the manager on it. And I had built so much trust with the senior management team that, again, when I interviewed with them, it wasn't really an interview. It was more so of just like, hey, we're gonna have you on board, and or would you like to join? And again, they didn't like the position I have now. They didn't really even have the title, or the position wasn't even available. They just kind of made one for me, and I joined the team that way. And I ended up taking their global controller position, which has been really fun to date. And probably I think that the best part of my job now is that I'm able to now, in audit, the one thing that always bugged me was that I would make certain recommendations to my clients. I would say, hey, this is what you need to do based on the analysis I did. And, sometimes they wouldn't really take it into consideration, or they'd be like, okay, cool, put it, on the letter, or put it on the past adjustment schedule, and we'll move on. But now I do similar work whereby I work for a multinational billion-dollar conglomerate where we have, 100 different companies worldwide, and now I analyze them on a month-to-month basis, and I see how they're doing, what we need to do to improve, how can we make them better? And I do that by analyzing their numbers, and I see, okay, well, how are things going this month? And I do this every single month during my, month-end close. But my typical month-end close isn't your typical what an assistant global controller would do. It's more so a lot more finance, operations, and accounting kind of all combined in one. And it's cool how kind of day by day goes by, and new projects come up, and new things, things come up that, it's a private company. So it's really fun that no day is the same. There's always something different. There's always something, literally every day since I've worked at my new place, every day something comes up new, and it's awesome and exciting and fun. And I'm able to utilize the skills that I built throughout my audit career now in more so finance and operationally driven stuff that to me is a lot more fun now. And it's crazy how when I was in public accounting, I thought it was, be a partner or I'm going to be a loser. And that is absolutely not correct. Although being a partner and staying at a public accounting firm your whole career is awesome in itself, and that's a great path to take. But there's so many other things you can do, guys. And as long as you build a great foundation for yourself, like I said, you can build a great relationship with someone or a company or a client, or they can know that you're the best at what you do, and they can literally make a position for you out of nowhere just because they want to have you on board. You join the team, and now I am super happy because of the work that I'm able to do. Although, it's not just audit anymore. It's now accounting, finance, operations, management, HR. Like, it's kind of all in one, and it's super fun, and I'm having a blast with it. But again, every year I'm going to assess, is this job, is this path, is this career taking me to the long-term vision that I see for myself? And right now I can answer 100% it is. I am loving the person that I'm becoming. I'm loving the new skills that I'm learning from the more finance stuff. Like, I just worked on networking capital adjustment analysis that I never really did before for a deal we did. And it's just really fun to be able to get involved on that side of the business and actually see companies grow and develop themselves, and me analyze a company, give them my recommendations based on, me reviewing their P&L or their balance sheet or, their projections or whatever, or anything they want me to do, and analyze, hey, why is one of our portfolio companies maybe not doing as best as they should? I go in there, I assess the company, I meet with management, I talk to them, I let them know what things we can implement and do, and we start doing them, and things are happening, and it's super fun. And again, I can't even hear it in my own voice that I'm really enjoying it and I'm loving it. But again, your career is so long, and I want to stress this and kind of end this podcast on this note. Your career, if you're, 20, 30, you got another 30, 35 years. And I tell myself this, I got another 30, 35 years of work to do and go and learn and develop. And it's just exciting. It's exciting to see where you can go and where you can develop yourself, and just assess every year, and things can change. And I'm not saying that I would never go back to audit. Who knows? Or maybe I'm going to stay at this company for the rest of my life, and that is a big possibility. And that's something that, I'll be honest with you, in my head, that is something that I told myself already. I want to be the global CFO of the company or the global CEO of the company. Like, that's what I have the vision of myself now. That's how big I see myself now, because that North Star that I have for myself is going to get me through the days where I know that it's going to be tough. I know that I'm going to hit challenges that I don't really know how to address. I know because of the experience I've had before, where I had challenges that I have no idea what I'm doing, but I end up figuring it out, and I'm resourceful, and I use the skills that I've acquired over the past few years in my career to be able to tackle the new challenges and to become the best version of myself professionally and personally. So that's going to be the end of this podcast, guys. I know I kind of went on a long story here, but I wanted to illustrate kind of my career, my life so far, professionally speaking, and just to show you guys how much you can really grow in such a short amount of time. I honestly, I don't even remember who I was 7 years ago. I really don't. These short 7 years that happened after I graduated college in 2014 have just gone by like this, and now I'm just a completely different person. I'm super excited for what's to come with this podcast, with this channel, and me on a professional level as well. In my career, I'm growing, I'm developing, I love where I'm at, and I'm going to continue to do this. So, all right, guys, that's going to be it for the podcast. If you found this podcast helpful, please make sure to hit the like button below, share with any of your accounting friends. Until next time, work hard and dress well. Peace.